Hey everybody, today I want to introduce you to Marco. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Welcome to my condo complex, which will remain unnamed.
Oh no, it's Marco Polo. We're telling everybody where we're
Because basically I do own it.
Yes.
Being I am the Marco.
You are the Marco
The
Polo.
poloizes here.
Anyway, he's a single man here in the Philippines. How long have you been here?
So I first visited in 2019 and in and out a couple times before the pandemic, and then back to the US, Mexico for the pandemic, and then 2 years ago I came back and I have lived basically in Cebu City as my home base since.
And you do a lot of traveling around the island.
I do.
I saw some of your Facebook posts, different unique places.
Yeah.
Where have you visited?
I have visited much of the Manila area, which is not my favorite because of the craziness that it is. But
Any big city.
Yeah, I know. And then Mindoro, I did some video stuff over there down in San Jose. Then took the ferry to Palawan, Coron, El Nido, of course Cebu, both sides of the island, all the way up to Bogo, Bantayan,
Wow.
down to Oslab. I haven't been to Dumaguete yet.
Well, see, why come to the Philippines if you're not going to come to Dumaguete?
That's what I hear.
Go ahead and leave that comment down
Yeah.
below how stupid it is to go to Dumaguete. guys.
Especially if you're a YouTuber, because then I hear
You have to be a YouTuber. When you get your second ACR card, there's a box you have to check, and you have to give them your YouTube channel name.
There
in
we
Dumaguete.
go. And then you get into the metatasts of
So
the
let's-
YouTube.
So let's get into a big issue, and I've talked to many expats who travel around. It's hard to find a serious relationship when you're wandering around the Philippines. Have you found that to be a problem?
It's a challenge. It's
A challenge.
It's definitely a challenge because wherever, but this would be true for for guys who are in the U.S. and or anywhere in the other parts of the world. You're online searching for a Filipina. You're going to be LDR for a while.
Yes,
So
right.
you've got the distance thing. But when you're traveling around, but I have the flexibility that if, let's say I found my soulmate and she lived in Mindoro, I could make Mindoro my home base. I don't want to be living in the province with a capital P.
You don't want to live in the jungle?
I don't want to live in the jungle. Those were the adventures
It's cheap. It's cheap, they say.
Oh yeah, except for the mosquito lotion. That becomes
Mosquito
very
lotion.
expensive.
And pooping behind a tree.
Yeah,
Those are the luxuries that you
there are some basics that
That is the challenge, living
Yeah.
in the province. That is a challenge. But
So-
there's a lot of guys I've met where they say they leave, they go to one area, say Leyte or something, and they meet somebody, and they like them, but they still want to do their traveling. When they leave, that person sort of ghosts them. It's like the Filipinos worry that you're going to be with another Filipino.
Absolutely. That is, and not only do they worry about that, that's a bona fide concern. It really is because, especially the younger guys,
Yeah.
they're going to come over here. They're here for 3 weeks, and they're going to want to zip around.
But even the guys that are here permanent that really don't have a permanent address. Like you can say, I have a condo in Cebu, that's where I live. So they know that you have a base of operations. You're responsible enough to have a place that you live. A lot of guys that are wandering and they don't have, they're staying in a hotel, and they don't have a lease anywhere or a regular place they can call home. The women are scared of those guys.
They say that to me because I tell them up front. I'm direct and honest. Hey, I do Airbnb. Even when I'm here, I do Airbnb, sometimes long term for a month here. And so all you can say is this is who I am and how I'm doing it. When they say, I don't want, I'm looking for a serious relationship. I don't want to play. I totally get and understand what they're saying because, we were young once too, and we know what that feeling is like. And there's plenty here that want to play. And sometimes they're not honest about it as well.
So in your searching, do you look online, of course, for these people far away, and you find somebody, is that your next travel destination to where they live?
It has been at times.
So your traveling is based on who you've met online?
Could be. It could be. And let's say with an app like Tinder, Tinder follows me. So let's say I'm just traveling, I get to Corone. Well, it's going to do my radius within that Corone area, and then if I'm going to stay there a couple weeks, I can meet some people and such. So Tinder, it is.
Tinder follows you. I remember Tinder back home. It never worked for me. Nobody ever swiped me.
That is so nice.
Well, that funny guy once swiped me. But anyway, so as you're traveling around, do you get a lot of like weekend relationships or dating opportunities?
Yeah, if we want to do, let's do like the levels. There's meet for coffee. Okay, so and that's after a video chat. Always do a video chat. Oh my God.
Safety on both sides.
Both sides, and with filters and AI these days, people show up, and it's hard to do a filter on a video. So I always try to do video chat, then do the coffee, and that's usually the moment you know for sure if there's chemistry going back and forth with each other. And so then at the end of the coffee, then it's okay. Are we going to see each other again? And at that point, then And I always have flexibility. Most of the time I have flexibility. So let's say I'm scheduled to be there for a week and I meet somebody. It's like, oh, hey, I'll stay here. This is developing. We're seeing where this is going. And for me, it's always seeing where it's going. And, we all have our little boxes we check off of,
tons of little checks.
Yeah, that are important to us. Red lights, green lights, red flags, green flags. And so we do that, and she's doing it too. And mind you, I do want to be clear. I have been rejected.
No.
Yes.
Handsome man like you.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that sometimes the assumption is, us foreigners with our...
Oh, yeah, as soon as you get off the plane, there's 100 girls chasing you and from island to island. It is a challenge to find somebody, and some men spend years looking and never find the right girl.
And being totally upfront and honest, this is really, as I talk about this, especially now after 2 years, this is more about me than it is about the Filipina. Now, there are some things that won't work for me, like deal breakers. She pulls out a cigarette, starts smoking, we're done.
You're done.
Which never happens, of course, in the Philippines. It's only the guys usually that are that unwise.
The bar girls smoke pretty good sometimes.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, can't speak, has very low level English. I'm a communicator. It's very important to me. So there are some things right away but usually you can even tell that in the video chat. So you don't even
first talking to them.
Right.
So education is an important part. So you're looking for an older girl.
I have really put age kind of aside because I have met some younger women in their 20s who were like old souls, were incredibly educated, grew up in some kind of immersion of, let's say, American movies. And I just was floored a couple times, like how mature they were. Now, they're still 20.
In their 20s.
In their 20s. They're still in their 20s. And so, yeah, there's going to be some gaps. But I have met some in their 40s, and they're still acting like what we would see in junior high school back in the States.
A lot of guys. Somebody told me once in a comment, how can you date a younger girl? You'll have nothing to talk about. But what topics these women know here at 20, 30, 40, they don't know the same things we do. They can't have a conversation about when 9/11 comes around, or you want to talk about politics or something, or sports. They can't talk to you about this stuff.
Correct.
No matter what age they are. And the younger girls seem to be a little bit more educated, because the educated older women, who are the type you're looking for, they're usually taken already.
That's also true.
So, you have to, age shouldn't really matter. And especially, I don't believe age gap matters. The age of the girl does matter. You have to have some respect for boundaries of somebody that's too young.
Correct.
But a 20-year age gap or 10-year age gap or 50-year age gap, if the girl's old enough and mature enough, I think it's all right.
Yeah, and it's just always going to be compromise.
It is.
And you know this. No matter how good all the things are, and for you and I, having been around the block a couple times, we know that the beginning is about infatuation. There is blossoming like, oh my gosh, this is great. And of course, sex only intensifies that in the beginning, but we know that's going to die out. And when it dies out, what are you left with?
That's right. That's right. We all live fantasy. When we come over here, in our mind, the last beautiful girl we talked to, with the long black hair, the slender body, pretty face, and we fantasize having that pretty younger girl. Trouble is, fantasies wash away.
Oh, they do.
We're all laying back at home like I did in my late 50s, early 60s. Will I ever be with a beautiful woman again? And I'm not talking about boom every night, but just being with one,
right.
To have dinner with one. And in the U.S., it was probably not.
Correct.
Here, it is, how often do you want to have dinner with a pretty girl?
Correct.
Yeah.
It is, and it's hard for us to fully explain to our friends back home,
Counterparts.
our counterparts of what there is a cultural shift here. And because in our country, there's going to be immediate moral judgments, which I would have had coming over here. I was shocked when I got over here to see them feel this like, whoa, you're 25. You could be my granddaughter, for God's sakes. But as you get into the culture and you realize this is part of their culture, it's woven into everything. A young girl, Filipina growing up, sees in her family members with foreigners, and it works. Mm-hmm. It's healthy. And so as long as it's healthy, and of course, just like any relationship, it can also be unhealthy.
It can be very unhealthy sometimes, but a healthy relationship. So you say you check some boxes. What are, not your personal, but what are some important boxes that a gentleman should look for?
Well, you definitely, if you got to look for the scam, because scams are out there, and some of the scams are incredibly sophisticated and will hit all your buttons. But most of them are pretty innocent, but they're going to always start with some kind of, usually you put something like, oh, it's my birthday tomorrow.
It's my birthday tomorrow.
Oh, my grandmother's birthday tomorrow. Or, oh, if I could only get the medicine.
How coincidental you arrived the day before their birthday.
Yeah, just so coincidental. Yeah. So those are red flags, and just a couple more questions you usually can say, okay, great, good luck to you.
Do you look at height, slender, overweight, or is it the girl itself? Everything... we're a visual society. We go by the picture. That's the same thing on dating sites, on Facebook. When you look at a movie, you want something good to look at.
Visual.
And you see this girl. Do you have a typical type of girl?
Yeah, I'm definitely conditioned by my American upbringing that, quote, attractive women, and again, I grew up an athlete. I've tried to keep myself in shape my whole life, so I am attracted to that. And can that have some boundaries in terms of curviness? Totally. Because, good God, I'm definitely not my ripped water polo high school self anymore. I know you are. We all aspire.
Yeah, we all aspire to be
the paragon that you are.
But guys, the box that they say, I want a girl with long dark hair, and I want a girl about 5 foot tall, under 100 pounds. Well, that's 80% of the women here. And when you see thin, do you see thin women as being athletic or hungry?
Yeah, exactly, because some of them, not most, but some are like, oh, that looks like anorexia to us. Yes. Yeah, and so. Yeah, I just want to feel like this person's taking care of themselves, because even if they're thin, but I see their eating habits, and if they're just pounding away, endless calories and all the sugar in the diets here, then that gets me a little concerned about what does the future hold. I
always look at the mother. What the mother looks like. That's what they're going to look like. But 20 years from now, I'm not going to be here, so.
And what are you going to look like? What am I going to look like in 20 years?
Well, I'm going to look like a guy in a box with skull.
I know. I would say that the older I get, the less important perfection in how the person looks is, because it doesn't matter what she looks like. When I need, my adult diapers changed at 94, I want somebody who's going to be there, committed, dedicated, And of course, we're in the right place for that too,
Yeah.
because these women grow up in cultures where that is the norm.
They take care of their father. They take care of their grandmother, or grandfather that lives in the same house with them. Yeah, I'm a firm believer. Today, the first thing I found was a girlfriend, then a wife, and then she'll turn into a caregiver at some point in time. And but with these women, have you found anything that they're looking for in a man that you don't represent or
Oh, absolutely.
value you can give the girl?
I definitely don't represent what they would see as stability. And so when I say that, I've got financial stability.
Yeah.
And of course, that's an important factor in any of the equations you're going to deal with here. But, I do like to travel. I do move around. I'm incredibly independent right now. I grew up an only child, adopted. And so if I don't get my alone time, I go crazy. I go absolutely, and the relationship would be, so to try to explain that to somebody who wants to be on your hip 24/7, which is that caring nature, that's been one of the big challenges.
I went over a year with Janet, with me every day,
Yeah.
just to go down and get coffee. Oh, I'll come with you, even though she's busy. I'm going down to Tom Tom's for coffee. Oh, I come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some guys, that's what they come here for.
I enjoy it. I enjoy her company.
Right. It's part of what you're looking for. For me, and I think I'm the anomaly, is that I am not looking for that now. Now, when I'm older, yeah, I'm going to need that help. But right now, we had a good friend yesterday we were meeting with, and she was talking about how, independent, and she's off doing her thing, her boyfriend's off doing his thing, and I was just like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm used to with my previous marriages. I had incredibly independent wives.
Yeah, but that's an American thing. That's a rarity here that you have a Filipina that is an entrepreneur. We're talking about HEIDI, for those of you that know her. Very independent woman, but still has a personal life and needs her alone time. Me, if I get a text message, Janet's going to answer it in Dumaguete before I even look at it. All of the phones have my messenger and my text messages that she receives them, and it doesn't bother. It bothered me at first, but if you have that trust with each other, but that takes time to develop. But you're talking about that first year together. You want to keep that separate. You don't want someone to have the password to your phone and the password to your email and everything.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to them. And of course, they have the fear because they probably have already been through either a Filipino and or a foreigner who has cheated on them, right? So they have that fear baked into their psyche. So if I say, hey, I never want you picking up my phone and, going through it, because this has so much personal information. And yes, if I'm cheating, it would be in here. But there's also conversations I have with dear friends back in the U.S., and I have deep conversations with people that we agree it's a confidential conversation. And so somebody else, even at this point, especially a new relationship,
dating relationship,
a Filipina I barely know, that's just an issue. Now, down the line, such as you and Janet did, could that kind of open up? I don't know. It would be very difficult for me.
But the Filipino, if you don't, she's going to think you're hiding something. And she really doesn't care about your past. She's worried about you and the Filipinas here. She doesn't care about your ex-girlfriend in the U.S. or Australia. She can't compete with those people if you go back to them. But she can compete with Filipinas. And to find out that you're talking to a Filipina would really be disastrous in an early relationship.
So basically what you're saying, it's time for me to shave the head, put on the saffron robe, and find the Himalayan cave.
Something like that. But that's the reality of the thing here. It's the
reality. I would say it's the reality with a large percentage of the Philippines.
Yeah, we're not everybody. There's always exception in every rule. But you have to be willing to, what's the old joke? She says, where are you? And you go, I went down to 7-Eleven. She'll say, send me a picture. So you better have in your library a bunch of pictures of 7-Eleven, McDonald's, and
If you're
all this.
hiding.
But make sure the shirts match. That's where they'll get you. They'll go,
Yeah.
that's the wrong shirt.
And they are detectives.
And they are detectives.
Oh, are they detectives?
Do you foresee a long-term relationship in your future? Is that something you really, really want?
I do. I do want it. I had 2 marriages, one 20 years, one 15. And for the most of those marriages, that's what I wanted. I had somebody who was my best friend, who had my back. I supported her stuff. She supported my stuff. First marriage, we had kids. That's a huge thing. And they both ended, but that was just the ending. So I have this really good memory of having that person who's,
Good life.
So, but I'm also contemplating, would I be okay being single?
I've thought about that. You know, how my life would have been different if I stayed single. But the big thing in a relationship here in the Philippines is, we talked about this before, is that trust factor. You have to get to that level with your partner, the girl you're with, where you totally trust her to go out with her friends sometime or when you're gone, and she has to get to the point where she totally trusts you. And that's a hard place to get.
It
with the
is.
Filipino.
It is. And I'm the one thing I am that goes in the face of some of Philippine culture is I'm direct and I'm honest. So after that first coffee, if I know it's not going to be long term, I'm either telling her at the end of the conversation, hey, you're a great person. I really like you. We could be friends. This is not going to be a long-term relationship, I can tell, or I do it in text. And then if there is connection, then I'm immediately going to say, here's the quirks about me. And these are deal breakers if you have a problem with them, and at times it's been a deal breaker.
But some people, I think people, they let everything out too early in a
John says the same thing about me.
You tell them too soon. It's like, the big comment that you get in all these comment sections, ask her for her seminar, prove that she's not married, right? Well, when do you ask that? Do you ask that at the first coffee, the first date for dinner? Now, if she looks young, before your first intimacy moment, I would check an ID, just,
if she's young, she's on that young side.
And I tell you, there's women here that are 40 that I would check their ID. They look so young. You can't tell the age. But when do you ask if you're married? Now, you ask that in a conversation, but when do you ask for the proof? I never asked for proof.
I've never asked for proof on that. I don't know. I'm hoping that my radar is attuned enough at this point, and with my honesty and direct conversation, that will elicit the same in her. And I do really encourage that, because they don't want to do that initially.
No, they
don't. They want to be quiet. But I tell them, I say, within my culture, one of the ways I know you care is you ask me questions.
Yeah.
And we're here about a long-term possible relationship, so some of them have to be personal.
Women will hide like they have children. Maybe they're with the parents in the province, and they like you. They really like you, and they don't want to scare you because it's so new. Well, let's get to know each other first before I tell them my baggage. Let's make sure it's worth it, because it's so hard for them. And then a month later, they tell you, well, I have a 10-year-old son or something.
Yeah, I've had it happen a couple times, not a month into it, but within, even if they're holding that, if that's not on the profile, and it's always one of the questions I ask, even if it says no on the profile, I always say, where do you live? Do you have kids? Do you want more kids, etc.? Those are opening questions, and if 2 days later they say, oh, I have, well, that's going to be a problem for me.
That's a problem for you. Yeah, see, me, I would if it's within the first couple weeks, I'm going to accept that, being that you got the situation they're in. They've met a great guy in their eyes. You're a perfect guy. Oh my God, I hope this works out. They're crossing their fingers at night. They're praying to God that you're a good man, but they have this one thing hidden in the past, and it's a big thing, and it's hard for them to bring it out.
Yeah, and I'll say that, and I'm upfront about We all have our dark secrets.
We all have something.
And
there,
there's a bunch of them, and some of them are super like, we share that after we're 6 months into the relationship. Something in the past we're not proud of, etc. And that's okay to hold on to those. But things that are immediate, that have immediate ramifications, like you've got kids, well, that has financial implications. It might have living circumstances. I mean, I'm not ready to get on the ground with kids anymore.
Yeah, but,
I love being a dad, and I don't. And
she hasn't gotten the free dinner yet.
Well, hopefully by that point she has. Hopefully, and I'm clear about that. Hey, I've had a vasectomy. I love being a dad. I know how much energy it takes to be a good dad or a good single mom. There's no way I have that energy anymore.
Speaking of single moms, as you've experienced the Philippines, have you found that single mothers are more mature than their counterpart, the girl that's never had a child?
Yes.
In the trial?
Oh, yes.
Definitely?
There's nothing like parenting that matures a human being. We both know that.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. It just absolutely elevates your game, and all of a sudden you're an adult.
So I think I can tell a lot of times just talking to somebody if they have children or not.
Right.
Just
you can.
How they handle themselves, what's funny. The three girls that are giggling together at the table, they're all single and don't have kids.
Right.
The two women who are on their phone over there and they're serious, they're sitting there, but they're checking on their kids. They get home. They're the moms. And there's nothing wrong with a single mom, but you have to be prepared, as you said, that financial responsibility.
Yeah, you're jumping into it, and for anybody who is new to the Philippines, that is a part of the equation. You need to accept it, and you don't know what surprises, because I always kind of bring up the outlier situation. What if you're into the relationship 3 months, her 2-year-old comes down with brain cancer. But you're only 2 months into the relationship.
Yes.
Then those are hard decisions, but you do need to think about where you are in that process and at what point are you all in.
Yes. Yeah. That's the same, back home when you were dating somebody. If you talked to them and they told you they had this, disease or handicap, you had to think before you went out with them, is this something I want to deal with in the future? It's one thing when you're already in the relationship and people become handicapped. You're going to take care of them. You're going to love them. You're going to make sure they're, the best you can do with them. But in a brand new relationship or someone you haven't met yet, you really want to stay away unless you're prepared for that.
Yeah.
And it's something. And children, people say kids aren't expensive. Kids are very expensive.
Oh,
they go through shoes. They go through clothes. School. It's a
education.
non-stop.
And for us, we're going to, as we become vested in that relationship and we start being connected with family and the kids, we're going to want the best for them.
That's
so
right.
we're not going to send them to the public school.
No, they're going to private school, and you're going to buy them a birthday gift that is not a Jollibee basket.
Right.
So there's things involved with that. Well, Mark, is there any place in the horizon that you're going to travel? Have you traveled other than Mexico, outside of?
Yeah, I started with Southeast Asia. So all of Southeast Asia I've been to. I have friends in a lot of those spots because I repeated before the pandemic some of those journeys. And I would love to get back there, but I haven't been through China. I would love to get to China. I would love to get to Hong Kong and Taiwan. But there is definitely something about the magic of Southeast Asia.
Yellow fever, man. We love the women.
If we want to use a term that's very incorrect politically, but
it's a term from the 60s, 70s, and 80s we grew up with.
But Asian fever are just, and when John and I, maybe the podcast that we're talk show we're doing, we talked about what is this lure that definitely has captivated us. Doesn't captivate everybody, but there is something about the Asian culture in general, not just women, in general, that I've always been attracted to. I mean, I studied Buddhism for a while in my 40s, so there's something about it that has always drawn me. And as soon as I got here in 2019, I was hooked, line and sinker. The spell had been cast, and I got back to visit in the United States. I couldn't wait to get back.
You're in the Philippines. You're coming here for a 2-week visit. I want to go somewhere and meet beautiful women. Where do I go?
Just get off the plane and start walking.
No, not like that.
I mean, but literally coming to probably, I would say, I mean, literally, there is a higher percentage of beautiful women walking around everywhere here. But if you're in a bigger city, you go to a mall. I mean, you go through Ayala Mall, you can't go much more than about 30 feet.
Yeah, but all those girls have had 100 eyes on them. They've all are used to the foreigners staring at them, saying something to them as they walk by. But in the province, outside of the big city,
I haven't been to any province where I didn't run across beautiful women.
anywhere you choose, guys, he's saying just come to the Philippines.
Come to the Philippines.
Are they hotter? Are the girls hotter here in the Philippines than any other country in Southeast Asia?
You know, I would say in terms of how you and I have been conditioned, because the one thing the Philippines has, and Joe Coy, the comedian, talks about, hey, we're the only hybrid Asian race.
Yeah.
There is truth in that they are a hybrid of the Spanish, now all this American influence.
Yep.
And so all the DNA has been mixed up, and it has created a very specific genome of physical, that they are gorgeous. They are beautiful to us.
They have great eyes.
Oh,
the women,
yeah.
when they were wearing masks all the time, and it was just
the
every
eyes.
beautiful pair of eyes looking at you. You had no idea what they looked like or how old they were,
Yeah.
but their eyes were just tremendously gorgeous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Marco, any last words for the visitors coming to the Philippines? Men, what should they expect?
I
or
would say
watch out for?
come with an open heart, come with an open mind, and come with a kind heart, because as soon as you get off that airplane, you're going to feel foreigner power. There's going to be a power in who you are walking around. You'll see it as soon as people turn. Almost everyone's going to turn with deference to you, with kindness, with almost like your royalty. And with that power comes, Spider-Man responsibility.
All right. Well, tell us about your podcast.
Oh, yeah. John Shmulo, who many of you know, he and I are best friends. So we're putting together a talk show is what I'm calling it. He's calling it a vlog. Some are calling it a podcast. But it has more of a talk show feel. It's going to have segments. It's going to be a little more planned out than what would be the typical YouTube, where you just sit down, you're interviewing, talking with people. It's been a journey. We've been working on it for a month. And I'll tell you what, as a special deal, as a special kindness to your viewers, I will get you a teaser, and then you can kind of see where we're headed with it. It will definitely evolve and grow, but yeah, we're excited.
When I get that teaser, I'll put it in the newsletter. You guys can take a look at that.
Yeah,
But
ultimately for John and I, we like to make the world a better place if we can. We're here in the Philippines. We're vested in the Philippines. So hopefully what it will do ultimately is, inspire, educate, make you laugh, but also make you think. And as you well know, nobody like a John Shmulo to make you think.
Yeah, dirty jokes and things. John's cool. See you guys.
See ya.
Love you always.
Right.